Good afternoon. My name is Tina Glandian. I'm an attorney from the United States, and I'm representing Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate alongside their Romanian legal defense team. We were in court this morning where the defense team made extensive legal arguments pointing out the lack of evidence against the Tate brothers. And then Andrew and Tristan took turns each addressing the court, and they were both very forthcoming, as they have been throughout this entire investigation, and they asked the court for their freedom based on the lack of evidence against them and the lack of any criminal history that neither of them has. There were also additional factors mentioned, one of which is the fact that Tristan has a new 3-week-old baby who he has never met, because I was going to say he's been in custody, the brothers have been in custody longer than his baby has even been alive. We are now awaiting a decision by the court, and we are hopeful that they will do the right thing and let the Tate brothers out of custody. It's no secret that the Tate brothers are controversial public personas. But this is not about their public persona and whether you agree with their viewpoints or not. This is about the violation of international human rights and the due process of law. So far, the system has failed. The Tate brothers, who are both U.S. citizens, have been in jail for over 30 days now without bail and without any charges being filed against them. This investigation started in April of last year, and the fact that today is February 1st and no charges have been filed in the 10-month period should speak volumes as to the state of the evidence. The continued detention of the Tate brothers under these circumstances is a violation of international human rights law and of the EU guidelines, and Romania obviously is a member of the EU. So despite what anyone's viewpoint might be as to the Tate brothers, and if they agree or don't agree, everybody should be concerned about this global issue. My firm has joined the Romanian legal team because we want to ensure that our citizens are protected when they're abroad, and we will continue to fight to get the Tate brothers out of custody and home where they belong. Can take some questions?
Puteți adresa întrebări? Please.
Hello, hi, Lucy Williams from the ECUs. Just a couple of questions for you. Could you just explain a bit more about the violation of international human rights law, how you see the case? And also, Andrew Tate has said himself that he has multiple passports. And I just wanted to clarify how many different nationalities of passport he actually has.
So to answer your question, there are due process rights, especially for pretrial detention. In this case, there aren't charges yet, so it's considered a preventative detention. And so you're supposed to have the least restrictive alternatives imposed. And there's no doubt that incarcerating and jailing someone with no bail is the harshest sanction you could impose. And the circumstances here don't warrant it, where there's no charges, they have no prior criminal history, and the government is always in a position to take away passports and to impose any conditions, whether it's house arrest or other forms of supervision, to make sure the person doesn't flee. Again, I don't believe they're a flight risk. They've known since April that there was an investigation. If they intended to flee, they've had 10 months. They could have left Romania. They have not. They have ties here to the country. As I gave one example, Tristan has a newborn baby who's Romanian, who's here. And so there's absolutely no indication that they're a flight risk.
And can you clarify about the passports as well? How many different passports?
I actually am not in a position to answer that question right now.
Given the serious allegations against the Tates, Andrew allegation of rape, as well as evidence which the police say was seized at the villas, including weapons such as guns, knives, and stacks of cash, how safe is it for these men to be released? And secondly, can you just clarify the information given to you by the judge as to why so far they haven't been released?
To answer the first part of your question, of course, once even charges are filed, they're presumed innocent. In this case, there's no charges that have even been filed. So to talk about the seriousness of the allegations, of course, they're very serious crimes. Nobody disputes that. But there is insufficient evidence that they've committed these crimes because they haven't even been charged, and the police have had ample time. They've been investigating since April. They've basically had these men under surveillance this entire period, and they haven't charged them with a single crime. So they've been in jail now for over 30 days without so much as a single criminal charge against them.
And in terms of why the judge has explained so far why they haven't been released, what evidence have you told that?
We feel that there's outside pressures and that this is not based on the actual evidence because, again, the evidence is very weak, and if there was any evidence, we believe they would have been charged by now.
This idea witness, what kind of outside pressures are you referring to?
There's an ongoing investigation at the moment, so there's certain things I'm limited to saying, so I don't want to address that right now, but in due time, we will be speaking about that.
The hearings are private.
Yes.
Întrebări de la presa din România?
Okay. You talked about the U.S. citizens' rights, but we know the
Can you please
investigation.
introduce yourself? Sorry. Can you please introduce yourself?
Valentin Stan, Digi24, Romanian television.
Oh, okay. If you're Romanian television, you can speak in Romanian and I will translate to you.
Okay. Vorba despre drepturile.
So regarding the ongoing investigation, they know that the inquiry started once the American embassy
Yeah.
has
A emis o alertă.
alerted.
a emis o alertă
A emis o alertă cu privire la răpirea a două fete din Statele Unite ale Americii care s-ar fi aflat la reședința fraților Tate.
Oh yes, so when they were alerted that two girls from the United States have been kidnapped and they were at the Tate residence.
And we reject those allegations. We don't think there's absolutely any evidence of that. There has been made public certain evidence. Again, as an attorney, I don't want to speak as to the facts of the case since there is an ongoing investigation.
Just give
But
me
I,
a second to translate.
Sure.
Thank you.
deci au fost
but there is information already in the public domain. There's videos online that dispute these allegations. And the only evidence that I've seen other than the allegations are exculpatory for the Tate brothers.
How does the team see the fact that it's actually the U.S. Embassy that has alerted the Romanian authorities?
I think the U.S. Embassy has a duty to pursue any sort of complaint. And so I think if the embassy alerts authorities, that's what it's supposed to do if it receives a complaint. I don't think that goes to the credibility of the allegation, nor does it mean that it's true. They're just doing their job. And the embassy is not in a position to investigate.
So as a woman attorney and as a career woman,
Yes.
probably they're hinting at feminism as well. How do you see the fact that the girls working for the Tate brothers were obliged, it's the allegation, it's not the fact, it's the allegation that the girls working for the Tate brothers were obliged to wear the tattoo, to wear that, that mark, if you want to say.
Again, we dispute the allegations. The brothers vehemently deny the allegations. And so I've seen no evidence to support that allegation. And
They want to, this is Antenna 1, they want to know if you are retained directly by the Tate brothers and what is your role within the legal team.
yes, my firm has been retained directly by the Tate brothers, and we will be assisting to the extent possible in Romania and for the foreseeable time being, and then we will advise beyond that.
Okay, so she appreciates what you have said regarding the reduced flight risk of the Tate brothers. Poți să repeți în partea a doua a întrebării, te rog? Okay, so when the first appeal against the brothers being retained has been filed, the prosecutor's argument was that the Tate brothers can apply psychological pressures on the victim. What is your opinion about the prosecutor's statement?
It's a statement by the prosecutor. It's unsupported. Again, I emphasize the fact that we're February and they've been investigating since April. If they had sufficient evidence of that, if they had sufficient evidence of anything, they would have filed charges by now. Instead, they're just detaining them. They're prolonging the detention. They're hoping in the interim, while they're in custody, they find some evidence to keep them on something. But as we sit here today, there's no proof of anything, including that allegation.
Do you consider, this is a subjective question, do you personally consider that once somebody has more than 3 complaints against them filed, do you consider that to be like an alarm bell?
I don't, because I think there are certain people who put themselves in the public eye who are targets, who will have 3 or 5 or 20 because they have money, they have opinions, and they naturally make themselves a target. So I think it's expected when somebody's in the public eye, and we've seen this before with other clients, with celebrities. So I'm not surprised, and I don't think the fact that there's more than a few complaints means that there's strength in numbers. I don't agree with that.
Okay, so it's the question that we have anticipated. What is the strategy further down the line if the Tate brothers are not released today?
We intend to, I will consult with my Romanian legal counsel here, and we will take the next appropriate steps. I believe we'll be asking the court for bail to let them out on bail and other conditions, and we'll explore what other alternatives we have to make sure they get home.
What she's saying is that at this moment there are charges pressed against the Tate brothers. That's what she is saying.
Există diferențe între sistemele de drept și așa se raportează la altceva, la sistemul de drept din stat?
She's asking whether you are judging from a U.S. law state of
No.
point of view or Romanian, and I
No,
said
under-
Romanian for sure.
Correct. I'm saying this based on Romanian law, based on my Romanian legal defense counsel's consultation and their interpretation of what's been happening in the proceedings. As we sit here, there are no criminal charges. This is,
They haven't been indicted yet.
they're under, this is a preventative detention
Este
while
măsură de arest
they
preventiv,
investigate.
în timp ce se desfășoară ancheta.
Are you allowed to make arguments in court, or do you have to go through your Romanian defence team?
Correct, yes. I am not authorized under Romanian law to appear before the court and argue. I was present in court today observing the proceedings, and I could consult with my counsel, but I cannot argue before the court.
And again, one last question from you and one last question from the Romanian press after that. Thank you. And somebody who hasn't asked questions
Yeah,
before.
absolutely, if someone else wants to.
Dacă e cineva care...
I know you said that you couldn't talk about the outside pressures, but it is very difficult to get any handle on what you're trying to say. Is there anything you can say about that, just to narrow that down a little bit?
Not at this time. I think you'll hear from us again soon, but we are waiting on the court's decision today, and we want to be respectful of the process.
And are you still expecting a decision today?
Yes.
That's what we're told. We're hopeful that it comes today, yes.
So she's asking regarding the 2 victims that were declared by the prosecutors as victims in the files, but they are not. They have appeared on the media supporting the Tates and saying that they aren't actually victims. The question is, how did they end up as victims in the investigation?
That's a great question.
Bună întrebare. Și noi ne întrebăm.
That's my response. It's a great question. If they've come forward and publicly said they're not victims, then it makes you ask yourself, why have they been listed as victims? And what's the state of mind of the other alleged victims?